Now, what is refugee status determination? Well, refugee status determination, or RSD, is the process by which governments or UNHCR determine whether a person seeking international protection is considered a refugee under international, regional, or national law. Although states have the primary responsibility for determining refugee status, UNHCR may conduct RSD under its mandate in countries or territories that are not party to the 1951 Refugee Convention, or which have not yet established the necessary legal and institutional framework. Malaysia is not a party to the 1951 Refugee Convention and does not have a national asylum system in place. So UNHCR carries out RSD under its mandate in Malaysia. Now, refugee status determination is an individual process to examine why a person fears returning to their country of origin. We could move to the next slide, please, Marie. So, who is a refugee? Well, according to the 1951 Refugee Convention, a person is considered a refugee if they, one, and you can see the text in green on your screen, they are outside their country of origin and unable or unwilling to return. Or using the words in the convention itself, they are unable or unwilling to avail themselves of the protection of that country. So this means that persons who remain in their country of origin are not refugees and cannot register as asylum seekers. Two, and you can see the text in blue, if they are outside their country of origin and unable to return due to a well-founded fear of persecution, which means serious breaches of fundamental human rights. And three, and if you see the text in red, the persecution feared is for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group, or political opinion. Those are the reasons, the grounds for persecution in the convention. And therefore, not for other reasons, such as, for example, simply owing money. So we'll leave the slide up there for a moment longer, so you can see the definition, and you can see the main constituent parts of that definition. So a person is considered a refugee if they are outside their country of origin and unwilling to return due to a well-founded fear of persecution for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group, or political opinion. The refugee definition applies both to persons with a nationality and persons without a nationality, therefore including stateless persons who have a well-founded fear of returning to their country of former habitual residence, as you can see there on the screen as well. A person is also considered a refugee if they are unable to return to their country of origin because of generalized violence or events seriously disturbing public order, such as war or conflict. Persons who meet these criteria are recognized as refugees, and their legal status is recorded as refugee in UNHCR's database upon completion of the RSD process. Before completion of the RSD process, an individual status is recorded as asylum seeker. Both refugees and asylum seekers, while the RSD process is pending, have the right not to be returned to a country where they claim to face persecution or serious threats to life, physical integrity, or freedom. Refugees and asylum seekers are different from migrants. A migrant is a person who voluntarily left their country to take up residence elsewhere, for example, for work, education, or other personal reasons. If a person left their country only for these reasons, they are a migrant, not a refugee. Now we'll play a short clip about the difference between a refugee and a migrant. As you saw from that clip, refugees and asylum seekers are different from migrants. Just to reiterate, a migrant is a person who voluntarily left their country, for example, for work, education, or other personal reasons, as opposed to a refugee. Now, how is refugee status determined? As I mentioned before, RSD is an individual forward-looking assessment, and it seeks to answer the question, what will happen to this asylum seeker if they were to return to their country of origin today? The most important source of information is the asylum seeker himself or herself during the RSD interview, which I will discuss shortly. RSD is also guided by the UNHCR handbook on procedures and criteria for determining refugee status, UNHCR guidelines and policy, the UNHCR RSD procedural standards, and country of origin information, meaning objective and reliable information on the situation in a country of origin from reliable sources such as RefWorld and EcoINet that you can see on the screen now. Asylum seekers may also submit supporting documents, for example, identity documents, which are useful as a source of information about the asylum seeker. Now, as already mentioned, an asylum seeker's own testimony is often the main source of information. So an RSD interview is essential to establish the facts of each individual case. You might be thinking, how can I get an appointment for an RSD interview? Well, RSD follows registration However, cases are prioritized for RSD based on specific need, so timelines vary considerably. Marie, if you could just move the slide forward, thank you. So due to the high volume of applications and the need to prioritize, it is not possible to estimate when a newly registered asylum seeker will be scheduled an RSD interview. UNHCR prioritizes asylum seekers who have specific needs and are at greater risk. For example, those facing problems in Malaysia who are at serious risk of harm or who are at risk of being detained or forced to return to their country of origin. When you are scheduled for an RSD appointment, UNHCR will contact you by telephone to inform you of the date and the time of the interview. Please make sure your contact details are always updated on our website so we can contact you. If you would prefer either a male or female interviewer or interpreter, please state this preference during the call. Please do not come to the UNHCR reception centre if you do not have an appointment, as you will not be allowed to enter without an appointment. Is there anything you should do to prepare for your RSD interview? Well, there's nothing in particular you need to prepare. Please come to the UNHCR reception centre at least 30 minutes before your appointment. Please bring all family members who are registered in your UNHCR file, for example, your spouse and children. Your family members may need to be interviewed individually. They also have the right to seek asylum and to be heard. Please also bring with you your UNHCR document, any identity documents, and other supporting documents. And please be prepared to spend most of the day at the UNHCR reception centre. What is asked during the RSD interview? Well, you will be asked many different types of questions, including about your identity, personal and family history, and the reasons why you left your country and are seeking protection in Malaysia. The interview process can take several hours, but you will be able to request breaks. If you do not understand any question, the interviewer will clarify. It is very important that you cooperate during the interview and tell the truth about yourself and your past experiences. If it is determined that you misled UNHCR, this may negatively affect your case. Please be assured everything you say will be kept strictly confidential within UNHCR and cannot be shared with any other party unless you consent to it. UNHCR will never share information with authorities in your country of origin. What about interpretation during the interview? It is your right to be interviewed in a language that you are comfortable speaking, and UNHCR will provide an interpreter if required. If there are communication problems or other issues with an interpreter, you may request change of interpreter at any time. The interpreter's role during the RSD interview is only to interpret the questions asked by the RSD interviewer and the responses you provide. The interpreter plays a completely neutral role and plays no part at all in the decision on your case. The interpreter is also bound by an oath of confidentiality. So that's the interview. After the RSD interview, when can you expect a decision? Following the RSD interview, your case will be assessed and a decision will be made. You'll be contacted by telephone to notify you of the decision. UNHCR tries to finalise RSD decisions promptly, but the timeline will depend on the individual circumstances of the case. You might even be called for another interview if more information is needed to reach a decision on your case. We sincerely appreciate your understanding and patience. And it is important that you keep UNHCR informed of any changes to your telephone number, email address, or other contact information. You can do this on the Refugee Malaysia website at the link on your screen now. If your application is successful, you'll be recognized as a refugee and issued a UNHCR card like this. UNHCR Malaysia documentation has already been discussed in the webinar on registration. If your application is unsuccessful, the reasons for the decision will be explained to you, and you will also receive a letter explaining the decision in writing. You have the right to appeal this decision within 60 days of being notified of your negative decision, and UNHCR will explain the appeal process when notifying you of a negative decision. If you do not submit an appeal application, your file with UNHCR Malaysia will be closed. If you submit an appeal application, your case will be reconsidered. Not everyone who submits an application, an appeal application, will be called for another interview. A decision might be made based on the available information in your file and your appeal application. If you have new issues or evidence you want to raise in your appeal application, you may do so. You can also raise any issues related to interpretation or how the RSD interviewer handled your case at first instance. At the appeal stage, your case will be processed and reviewed by different staff than those who were involved in the first instance decision. After your case is reviewed at the appeal stage, you may receive either a positive or negative decision. If your case is rejected at the appeal stage, your UNHCR file will be closed and you will no longer be issued any UNHCR documentation. To summarize, the RSD process has two stages. At first instance, an asylum seeker is either recognized as a refugee or their case is rejected. Those whose cases are rejected at first instance have the right to appeal against the decision. Appeal applications can result in either recognition as a refugee or final rejection, at which point the individual is no longer registered as an asylum seeker with UNHCR or issued any UNHCR documentation. And what if your file with UNHCR Malaysia is closed? There are various reasons why your file might be closed. If you did not submit an appeal application within 60 days of being notified of a negative first instance decision, your file will be closed. If your RSD case was finally rejected at the appeal stage, the file will be closed. If you left Malaysia, either to return to your country of origin or to go to another country, your file will be closed. Please also note that if you cannot be contacted to schedule an appointment, or you did not attend a scheduled appointment and subsequently cannot be contacted, you might be deemed to have abandoned your claim. Again, it is very important that you keep UNHCR informed of any changes to your telephone number, email address, or other contact information. How can I reopen my file with UNHCR after it was closed? And how can I get a new UNHCR document? Now, as explained under the frequently asked questions on the RSD section of the Refugee Malaysia website, and that's at the link on your screen now, you can submit a reopening request by email to the RSD unit. The email address is also featured on your screen now. And you can submit that request in any language. If your file was closed because your case was rejected at the appeal stage, a final determination was made that you are not a refugee. You will need to take your own measures to either regularize your status in Malaysia or consider other options if this is not possible. A file may only be reopened after a final rejection at appeal stage in specific circumstances, including if there has been a significant change in the conditions in your country of origin that may affect your eligibility for refugee status. You can request file reopening if your RSD case was rejected at the appeal stage, and your request will be considered. However, it might take the RSD unit a long time to review a reopening application, and there is no guarantee that your file will be reopened. But your request will be considered. If you have already submitted a reopening request, please do not send follow-up emails, as this will slow down the process further. Now, I'd like to move on to the subject of scams. Now, an example of a scam could be someone contacting you claiming to be from UNHCR, promising an interview appointment or faster case processing in return for money. Beware of scammers who may offer to facilitate UNHCR processes in exchange for money or other favors. These offers may be made to you in person or via social media. The scammers may even show you information to persuade you that they are connected to UNHCR, but do not believe them. People who make such false promises are taking advantage of your situation. Avoid them. They may steal your money or profit from selling your personal information. How do we fight against scams? Well, first of all, please take note that all services provided by UNHCR and its partners are free of charge. All services. You cannot pay to process your case faster. Do not trust anyone or any organization that asks you to pay for any UNHCR or UNHCR partner service. Any UNHCR services offered to you in exchange for money are scams. Fraud is a crime under Malaysian law, and you can approach the nearest police station to report fraud. So you cannot pay to have an RSD interview with UNHCR. All services provided by UNHCR and its partners are free of charge. Do not trust anyone or any organization that asks for money to be paid for UNHCR or its partners' services. You will lose your money and you will not get an interview appointment or whatever you have been promised. If you have been approached by someone claiming that they can help your case with UNHCR, please inform UNHCR immediately. If you're not sure if you were contacted by UNHCR or someone else, you can ask UNHCR. You are especially encouraged to do so if you are asked for money or favors. You can send an email or a complaint to RIOT, which is UNHCR's dedicated risk, integrity, and oversight team. And you can use the contact details on your screen now. So here are a few things to remember regarding RSD case processing. All RSD activities are managed through an appointment system. The UNHCR office is not open for walk-ins or those without appointments. Scheduling for RSD interviews is done based on prioritization and it is very important to keep your contact details updated. And again, all UNHCR services, including RSD, are free. One cannot pay to receive any service or faster service from UNHCR. Paying and receiving money for UNHCR services is wrong. Finally, please do not send letters to UNHCR for RSD interview requests or updates on case processing. UNHCR does not process requests sent by post. For RSD interviews, always wait to be scheduled and do not approach the UNHCR office, as this process is not done on a walk-in basis. And please do not submit multiple email applications for the same request, for example, for file reopening. Multiple applications do not increase your chance of faster processing. On the contrary, they will delay the process. So for further information on refugee status determination in Malaysia, including frequently asked questions, please visit the RSD section of the Refugee Malaysia website at the link on your screen now. We will be reviewing all the questions and comments you have submitted during this webinar to see if we need to update information on the website, as well as other communication materials on RSD. So thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you a good day.